Hello everyone, Mythic here, and welcome to another Lucian 3.0 update video. Now, it has been a while since we've made an update video, and in that time, a lot has changed. I counted myself, there have been over 80 changes in this latest version that have a tangible and direct impact on the game, as well as numerous flavor scripts and just improvements in general on the mod. And we've also managed to basically make the file size smaller by reducing excess models, so we've definitely cleaned up the mod a lot, and we've actually shrunk the mod by about 2 or 3 gigabytes, which is also very important. Now, we have a lot to cover today. We're not going to be covering every change that's occurred since we last had an update video, but we're going to be covering some of the more important ones and leaving some more of the flavor scripts and other little features up for players to find. So without further ado, you know how this goes. Let's hop into the campaign section of the video. Egypt has its starting units and starting armies as well as basic starting position, which is seen here pretty much. Depending on the area where you are, you might get a different unit. So over here, since you're closer to Arabia and it's more far out, you're going to get more Bedouin units. But as you move in, you're going to get more actual Egyptian units. So this is basically just a very simple starting position, but Egypt is a pretty powerful nation and it has the potential to do a lot. Now, one thing you might see is we have the unit cards down here. Unit cards have been completed openly for every faction. Now, at the same time, there are a few more that need to be changed due to retextures. There are over, I think, 120 new unit cards, or some of them have been redone. We've done a lot of retexturing, and we'll get to the retexturing later on in the video. But we've done a lot of retexturing, so over 120 new unit cards. And these are the unit cards for Egypt. So, take a look at these guys. They're pretty sweet. But yes, one other thing we need to talk about here, which is very important, it's a new change, and this is to all factions. So every faction with a family tree will have this, and some non-family trees. We'll take a look at the Barbary states in a second. So they have this retinue that's like, for example, King of France, or Bey of Egypt, or Sultan of the Ottomans. And basically this gives a bonus, and it's got a little description on it. It's very nice. And so basically that's just a little nice thing. It gets passed down from generation to generation, and it's very important because it's cool. And it provides some decent bonuses. Now, a few other things you can see here on the right. We have biological son. So he's a biological son, and his son is also a biological son. This trait will stay in the family. Basically, this puts a greater impact on keeping your family line the dominant force, because if you get too many non-family members, you're going to end up in a situation where you have a lot of potentially disloyal generals. So we've put an emphasis on family relations. And we also have is Mamluk and is Egyptian. Now this is going to be different for other factions. So the French will obviously not have is Mamluk, and neither will the Ottomans. But this is Egypt specific, so that gives a 5% bonus on tax income. And is Egyptian gives a 10% discount on construction costs. Now we're going to look at some other factions with these traits, but they're different depending on basically like the idea of the area. So we're going to go into France, which we have some other changes. Now, I did actually say that we would take a look at the Barbary states, so here we are. The Barbary states will actually have a unique script that allows them to exert their influence over the Mediterranean more effectively, which will provide a more interesting basis for the Barbary states to play as a Corsair faction, as that's what they're based on. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to, of course, look at the ancillaries. And so this is the advantage of being a pirate, which has one of my favorite descriptions I think I've ever seen in a video game. And you'll notice that since this guy is a family member, but the Barbary states don't have a family tree, he instead gets the minor aristocratic birth, which actually lowers his loyalty. And this is the case for most generals that are non-family members. I think all of the generals that are non-family members will get that -2 loyalty. So there's a very big influence that family lines have in Lucium now. And of course we see is Maghrebi now, which is another one of those like nationalities. And like I said, every faction has nationalities. So you have Russian, Swedish, Danish, so on. I'm not going to cover all of those because there's too many. But as you can see, another trait which is completely Barbary is of course the ebony and ivory and Barbary. And so that provides some bonuses and stuff, or mostly loyalty impacts and piety. They're pirates. It is what it is. But very cool. And of course over here, which is, I believe, yeah, the heir apparent. that's already in the game. And you can see they all have the minor aristocratic birth. And this guy has the Pasha of Tunis, Tripoli, and Algiers because he's the faction leader. And so yeah. Now, there is an event for the Barbary states, so we're going to check that out next time. So, as you can see, we get dragged over here by the camera, and we get the event, A Bandit Holdout. So, this basically is one of those flavor events I was telling you about. This gives you a very early prerogative to go take out this fort here, because this fort causes some extreme issues when it comes to trying to get over to Tripoli. The road is blocked, and you need to take out this fort to have easy access to the other side of your country. It's very important. Now, anyways, we're going to move on to France, which has some other changes that we need to talk about. Welcome to France. There's not that much to talk about, but one thing we'd like to talk about is... So between the time that I got this dev version and the time that I'm making this video, there was an update to the French family tree, as we can see here. And one thing that's important to mention is the fact that it's not historically accurate completely. While we do have Le Grand Dauphin and Louis Duke of Burgundy, we just went ahead and made them Louis the 15th and 16th, even though in reality they weren't. But we went ahead and we did that anyway. As you can see, this is the updated family tree. Here you go. Now, one thing that means is other nations also have historically accurate portraits. So you'll also have William, and then I believe you'll also have Philip down here. And I believe Charles the 12th is also historically accurate, and so is Peter the Great, of course. He was in 1.0, or maybe 2.5. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But he's had a portrait for a while. And we roughly placed these guys sort of similar to where they were supposed to be. This guy was in Strasbourg, fought in Alsace-Lorraine a lot, so I put him there. And this guy, his wife was from Savoy, so I put him on the Savoyard border, and Lyon is the closest city to the Duchy of Burgundy, and he was the Duke of Burgundy. So, another thing we can do, of course, is look at these guys who have their own unique portraits. So, you'll notice that the French have French royal notoriety, which increases the chance of having children and raises piety, but they also have French aristocratic lifestyle, which lowers popularity, so this is going to cause public order issues, and the idea is that eventually it will cause the revolution, or the RP reason the revolution is going to happen, if you want it or not. This guy also has his own unique retinue, which is Visage of the Sun King, which just provides some cool stuff, and as you can see, same things over here. French aristocratic lifestyle, French royal notoriety. Now, welcome to the British. The British are one of the nations that has received a massive overhaul in their event tree recently. Britain now has an event chain that leads up to turn 85, and eventually ends in the Second Jacobite Uprising, but it also has a bunch for the line of succession, because our good King William over here, well, he's actually Dutch, and that's not very British of you, Britain. But we also have the stuff for the Acts of Union, of course, which was a major event in 1.0 and 2.5, but that's been changed around, as you can see, because Scotland no longer exists. It became some random Arabian nation. That was my idea, though, so I don't know why I'm sounding so despondent about it. Anyway, yes, this guy's the only person in the British family tree. In a second, I will show you an event that pops up on turn 2, which is very important. Make sure to read it. But as we can see, this guy has ruler of the Netherlands and King of England, Scotland, and Ireland. He's Dutch, he's British, he's a biological son, blah, 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 blah. We've already seen these ancillaries. Let's go to turn 2. So, first things first, I want to point out, if you get this, never adopt. I know you only have one general. Do not adopt, okay? I just want to point that out. You're going to get an event that tells you not to adopt. Do not do this. Decline him. And this is when we get the succession problem. As you can see, note from lead developer, do not accept candidates for adoption until at least turn 15. Doing so will bug out the scripts for this faction. If you have done so already, restart. If you crash later in your campaign after doing this, do not come to us complaining. That's a bit rude. Anyways, have a nice day. Have a good game, buddy. Okay. Anyways, the point is, don't adopt. I hope we get that point across. But that'll lead us into a later script in which we will get our new heir and basically change the lineup to be more of German succession, because that's where they found the future King of England. Now, we've been harping on about an HRE system in the game for a long time. In fact, one of the longest times, actually, because the HRE system was originally in 1.0 before it stopped working and we had to stop doing it. Well, we've finally come back with a functional HRE system for this time period. So, basically, turn 2, let's get into it. You're going to get a bunch of events. There's a lot of event chains. Of course, I will describe things. But anyway, our camera gets moved up here. Let's see what it is. The Holy Roman Empire. And then you can read all of this stuff. So, basically, if you're part of the HRE, every 10 turns from turn 5, you will get 2 free units in your original capital. This is just basically to give some benefit from being in the HRE. There are RP reasons if you want to read into it, but I'm just going to describe it mechanically. You will get 2 free units because there's got to be some benefit to being in the HRE. Whenever you go into debt, as in under negative money, I don't think that's a thing, under 0, you will get 2,000 florins per turn. Now, what this means basically is you get cash, but it gives an event to all other HRE members saying that you've gone into debt, basically exposing the fact that you're super weak and you don't have money. So, you'll probably get invaded. Don't go into debt. But if you do go into debt, at least you'll get a little kickback. Drawbacks. So, you are completely unable to form Germany without owning Magdeburg. So, to own Magdeburg means you destroy the HRE. Now, destroying the HRE is its own thing, which I'll talk about right now. Now, I've come over here and we can see the Magdeburg garrison now. So, when Magdeburg is taken, the world will get an event, or basically the nations that surround Germany will get an event saying the HRE has been destroyed. I think it's changed for some. I believe everyone gets an event, actually, that it's been destroyed, but it's custom for the ones that are around the HRE specifically. As we can see, the garrison has been revamped for the Magdeburg garrison, and it's pretty powerful. So it's definitely going to take a lot of work to take these guys down, and they have the Holy Roman Governing District building, which is completely unique. Basically, that's about it for ending Magdeburg. The HRE system goes away. You will no longer go get money if you go into debt. And you also won't get your 2 free units, but at least you'll be able to form the German Empire. So you can do a little meta strategy if you want, which is basically take over all of Germany before ending Magdeburg. That way you get your maximum cash. Now, there have been some changes to Austria involving the HRE system, which will appear on turn 3, so let's skip to that. Also, Austria gets an event basically describing the Balkan War. This is another one of those events that basically tell you to do things because you should. And it's also very important. So basically, you're at war with the Ottomans. Oh crap, that's not very good. It's a little bit of an extension of the Great Turkish War, but anyways, moving on to the HRE system, that's on. So we get another one of those drag events that basically takes us up to here. Now, this is different from the HRE member states because Austria is the leader of the Holy Roman Empire. So, Austria gets an extra 500 in their king's purse from HRE tax revenue. However, if the Holy Roman Empire is destroyed, Austria will permanently lose that 500 in the king's purse, so it'll go down to 1,000 from 1,500. However, if Austria takes Magdeburg, since Austria is the emperor of the HRE, Austria gets a centralization event where they begin centralizing the HRE, which will actually give them even more tax. So, if you're Austria, it's in your interest to preserve the HRE and most likely take over more of it. Now, at the start, of course, the Austrian faction leader will start with the crown, and I think the Austrian faction leader. There we go, King Charles the Honorable's in a fort. Anyways, as we can see, he has the Holy Roman crown because he's the emperor. He also has King of Austria, of course. And if Magdeburg is taken by somebody that isn't Austria, they will lose the Holy Roman Empire crown. So basically, this event, this retinue exists until Magdeburg's taken by someone that's not Austria. Alright, now I promise we're almost done with the campaign section of this update video. It's been a lot more long than the ones that we usually have, but that's because there are a lot of changes to the campaign map, though I do promise there are some battle changes which are pretty interesting, so we'll take a look at those in a second. But, for the moment, there have been some major changes to the German formation event. Basically, once you form Germany, you get a new culture, which is the Greater German culture. And your idea for the Greater German culture is to expand it across all of Europe. You also get a choice to form Germany or not. If you choose not to form Germany, the Austrians will go to war with you. And if you choose to form Germany, obviously you get to become Germany. Also, once you form a formable nation in this game, so that goes for the Scandinavians, the Italians, and the Germans, once you form a formable nation, for a little bit of time you'll get a public order penalty, basically from reorganization after you've united all the nations. So you will have a little bit of a public order issue once you form your nation, but it'll go away after a bit, and you should be able to stabilize things if you're powerful enough. Another thing we should mention is the Swedish events involving the Great Northern War, which was, in the real world, a war against Sweden by the Russians, Polish, and the Danish. Also, King Charles over here, Carlos Rex, we did have to make him a little older than he is in the real world, but that doesn't matter. Very good general. He's also got some traits. Carlos Rex, the blood of Carlos Rex. This trait will get passed down to his heirs, so his heirs will also have the blood of Carlos Rex, and that just provides command. Now, here we are for the Great Northern War, drags you off, and then boom, you get an event. It tells you all about it. Only one nation can stand on top as the ruler of the Baltic Sea and hegemon of Northern Europe. Basically, blah blah blah, fills you in on the details. As Sweden, you start at war with the Russians. Not 100% historically accurate, but we didn't want to make it too hard. And yeah, so enjoy. Now, moving on to my personal favorite new part of the Middle East has been completely overhauled when it comes to units as well as factions. Back in 1.0 and 2.5, it was just the Ottoman Empire and the Persians, as well as Georgia up here in the Caucasus, and Morocco all the way over here in North Africa. But it's been populated a lot, and it looks a lot nicer now. But one thing that all Islamic nations will go through now is modernization. So the Islamic nations were technologically behind the Europeans in the 1700s, and they're going to need to try to modernize to keep up. So there's a modernization event for all of the Middle Eastern nations, but most importantly, the modernization doesn't really exist for the nations like Morocco, the Barbary states, and the Khalidi, mostly because they're just small. But it really exists for Egypt, the Ottomans, and Persia. Now, the Egyptian, Ottoman, and Persian rosters have all been built around the idea of modernization, so they have pre-modernization and post-modernization units based into tiers. You've seen all the units now. They will be broken up into tiers, like I said. But basically, when you get the modernization event, it's going to replace the current units in recruitment, so you'll be able to recruit new units. It's the difference between Ottoman Sultan's Guard and Nizam Jedid line. I believe the Nizam Jedid line actually needs to be taken out of the starting rosters because, well, it's a post-modernization unit. As well as the Arabic Musketeers, maybe. I need to double check. It's been a while since I've actually, looked at the Ottoman roster, even though I made it. Let's not talk about that. But, yeah. So basically, there's going to be a modernization event, and the modernization event is going to change around what kind of units you get. The Ottoman Sultan Guard are the best in pre-modernization, and then the Nizam Jedid are the best in post-modernization. And this is the same for Egypt and the Persians at the same time. So their best unit in pre-modernization is going to be worse than their best unit in post-modernization. And so on, obviously. Now, this is the final part of the campaign map. I promise we're going to get into the units, so we'll have something nice to look at, rather than just text and cities. So, one thing that we've talked about extensively, or to an extent, I should say, is the light infantry. Every faction has light infantry now. However, they don't just come from normal conscription, they come from special light infantry buildings. So as we can see over here, we have the specialized conscription building, which when we go to it is the specialized shooting range. Now there is a building like this for every faction. It's different for the Middle Eastern factions, of course, but it's pretty much the same for the European factions. This basically just trains your light infantry, and as we can see, these guys have pretty weak general stats, but they have insanely high range. So their high range is used as a counterweight to make up for the fact that they do suck as a unit. These guys are pretty bad. 12 missile attack, not good. Melee attack 2, total defense 2. They will get completely destroyed by cavalry, and they will get destroyed by line infantry when the line infantry gets close. However, the idea is that line infantry never gets close. And so, for the final part of our campaign map, what we have here is a unit of serfs. Serfs are now a unit in Lucium. They are exceptionally cheap, they are exceptionally bad, and there are a lot of them. And basically, you can spam serfs to your heart's content until serfdom is basically abolished in Russia. Eventually, serfdom is abolished in the game, so you only have a limited amount of time to spam these serfs, but spam to your heart's content. Now, welcome to the battle screen. So, one thing we've done is we've retextured a bunch of the units. So, Dragoons, Grenadiers, and the new Home Guard Militia model are all textured based on faction color. So as we run through the different factions, you can see that. Home Guard, Grenadiers, and Dragoons. And then Home Guard. Wait, these these are Middle Eastern factions. I meant to go to Team 1. Please, somebody help me. I'm dying. Home Guard, Grenadiers, Dragoons, and so on, basically. So it moves through here. And this is not the case for Middle Eastern nations at the moment. But Middle Eastern nations are getting some retextures later on, which is when we're going to make a few more unit cards. And as we can see, of course, we have the glorious Serf unit card over here for the Russians. Serfs suck. But they also have their Home Guard militia, they have their Grenadiers, and I think you guys get the point. Now, as we can see with all these factions, one thing they have is this new crouching guy. This crouching guy is actually the light infantry. So we have them crouching to show that they're a different type of unit, because we didn't want them getting confused for like standard infantry units. So as we can see, the British have the Green Jackets, the Austrians have the Windbush Jägers. Moving on to Team 2, we have the Cazadores for Spain. And then all Middle Eastern nations share the Azaps, or Azaps. We aren't exactly sure of the pronunciation, but they all share this unit. So it's the same for them, and I'll example that in a minute when we get to them. As you can see, we have the Prussian Jaegers, and then we have the Strokovi. And then over here in the Barbary states, you can see they also have the Azaps. Now, to finish off the video, of course, we're going to do our normal thing, which is show off the units. So one thing we'd like to mention is, in a lot of situations, captain models, they were actually knights in armor, and the generals were and the kings were sometimes knights in armor with crowns. And this was especially prevalent on the campaign map. That has been changed now. You will no longer see men riding around in full plate armor in the middle of a 1700s battle. The curse is finally lifted. Now moving on to our serfs, as you can see, these guys are in general disarray. They've got their little pikes. Oh, they look like guns with bayonets, but they're just tiny little pikes. I don't know why they look like that, but yeah, there they go. It is actually a pretty nice model. I do appreciate the model. It's very cool. And moving into the new Home Guard unit, all Home Guard militia look like this now. They all share the model. There's just differences in retexture. Basically, it's guys with shorter pikes, but they have fancy little uniforms. And moving into the recolored infantry, as you can see, it's the same color because they're Russia, and then we'll show this in a second with Spain. Basically the same for all European nations. And finally, like I mentioned, you can also see the Dragoons have the Russian blue. And finally, the last unit is the Strokovi, which is the light infantry. Now, as you can see, they start hiding. They have the hide anywhere ability, but let's test them out. Let's show their range. So, they can shoot all the way over here. Now, again, that comes with the downside. If you get in close to these guys, you're dead. And they're not too good, so they won't kill all the time. As you can see, that guy got hit, but he didn't die. But look at these beautiful Spanish men in their yellow. I told you, everyone's got nice retextures. But yes, this is the power of the light infantry. They're getting some kills. They are more effective when they don't have to shoot over a hill, I promise. So, as you can see, they're getting some more kills. When they actually have good line of sight, they will be more effective at range. But we can see how bad they are when they get into melee. These guys seem to be completely going around. Sometimes I really wonder about the Lucium AI, man. I really wonder. They actually routed. I guess when you're getting shot at directly, you're not exactly the strongest warrior. Now, the greatest battle of all time. The serfs. Oh my god, the serfs are being slaughtered. Oh god, the serfs are being slaughtered. No. Have they even killed... Okay, they've killed a few, but the serfs are being slaughtered. Cut down. The bodies are piling high as the serfs attempt to fight the Spaniards. But the serfs will not survive this fight long. Oh my god, it's a massacre. Oh my god. There's 50 of them left. No, it's serf genocide. Oh, but the Spanish are finally broken. That concludes the battle segment. Oh, and as you can see, our light infantry got completely destroyed by the Iberian Home Guard in a prolonged melee fight. Which is as intended. Intended words. Anyway, guys, that is it for this Lucium 3.0 update video. Got a little silly and out of hand here, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, this is a bit longer than usual. There are a lot of changes. Trust me, when you actually get in and play Lucium 3.0, you guys are going to be completely shocked at how much different it is from 2.6. It is like an entirely different world. This year of dev has completely changed the mod, making it from a kind of scuffed medieval 2 with guns and nice portraits to genuinely a 1700s military experience, and it's very cool. And I know I'm a dev, but I'm totally going to shill the mod. The mod is great. I wholeheartedly recommend that you guys play this. I really hope you're excited. This has been a year in the making at this point, a year and a month. But yeah, it's been awesome. So thank you all for support again. I feel like I need to thank you guys for your support because it has just generally been amazing that we do have so many supporters after so long. Thank you all for watching. Mythic out.